Okay guys, I'm back and we're going to revisit something that came in the last Shit Hits the Fan box because a lot of you guys had a lot of interest in this particular knife, in the M48 Sabotage Tanto Fighter. When I was messing with it in the video, I kind of liked it. It's not my style of knife. It's not even a particularly well-made knife, and when I say that, I'm speaking specifically about the materials it's made of. We'll cover that in a little bit. But, you know, it's an interesting looking knife, you know? I think a lot of people kind of liked the style of it and the look of it, but, you know, even acknowledged it looks cool, but it also has that look of, you know, maybe a little bit Mall Ninja, a little bit Hollywood, not so much useful. But I figured it was worth taking a more detailed look at, because a lot of the times in these boxes, you know, we do the unboxing and we look at stuff, but then we just sort of kind of push it on and move on to the next thing. So since there was some interest in this, let's take a closer look at this particular knife and let's see what everybody thinks of it. Well, we'll take this thing out of the sheath in a second. We have just a few shout outs today. Our list is getting smaller because I'm burning through them. MiG M411. Sometimes it's hard to say these names without cracking a smile or laughing. Anders Aho. His sister's getting married in another day or so on September 23rd, so he'd like a shout out there. Oh god, this one. You guys, you know, I put the shout-out names in the video description. You got to check this one out. Tistic. It's his birthday on September 26th, so we're going to throw it in here in case there's not a video that comes out with shout-outs before then. And then COD Plays would like a shout-out. So for you guys, thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for watching. Glad to give you guys shout-outs. We've got a couple birthday shout-outs coming up in October, but we'll wait for those. Let's start with the sheath. Things I like about the sheath. Things I don't like about the sheath. Let's start there. I've said in many, many videos, I don't like a sheath that limits your options on carry. I would love it if this thing would come with MOLLE attachments or just, you know, options besides just the big old belt loop. You know, yeah, you can modify this yourself pretty easily with a tie-down strap at the bottom, or, you know, there's a myriad of things you can do if you're crafty and creative. I do like the fact that instead of just a regular old nylon, they're giving you some kind of rigid rubber. That's a little bit of an improvement to me. I'd rather have a hard scabbard than a soft sheath any day of the week. Riveted construction is nice, and it's, you know, it's a little flexible, but still it holds its shape. It's nice. The snap holds the knife in place really well. It's just, I'd like to have more option than that. So, you know, nitpicky about the sheath is over. We'll put that to the side. Taking a look at the big blade itself. So I put the numbers in the last video. We'll put it here. Interesting. This is a cast steel knife. It says that on the description, you know, the product description online and all the information there. So what does that mean? How is that different? So normally a knife blade is cut out from a blank. It's either ground from blank itself or it's cut out from a big steel sheet, which means there's a machine or a person that is actually taking a grinding wheel and cutting out that shape, or plasma cutting, water jet cutting, or just, you know, a bandsaw cutting that shape out. They actually took a mold. They took, you know, hot liquid steel, injected that steel into a mold, and cast this like they would cast any other, you know, large piece of metal into that mold. So that's different, you know. It's, I guess, technically a little easier for them to get these designs. If you take a look, you've got these ridges here and you've got these indents and everything. It's a quick, easy way to mass produce all of this without having to do milling out and all that. You can see there's a little bit of pitting and everything, and this is probably from a mold that has been used over and over and over. Over time, those molds kind of, you know, they wear down, they get abraded, they get abrasion, they get, you know, just worn away a little bit. So that's why you get that unevenness. I don't know if this is particularly heat treated or not. I ran into somebody who was saying that they only heat treat high carbon steels, not stainless steels. That is not true at all, by the way. You can look this up if you want to, you know, check me on this. Yes, you can heat treat stainless steel combinations as well. Anyway, I won't even get into that, but you know, I don't know if this is heat treated or not, but it's got a black oxide coating. You can see that they then just put it on a grinder real quick to grind away the flat surfaces and leave the black oxide in the indents and in the recessed areas there, which gives it that kind of interesting look. So a cast knife rather than a cut knife. Interesting design to me. I'm not saying it's good design, I'm not saying it's bad design, it's just different. The steel that this knife is made of is 2CR13. So here's where we can debate. Is it a horrible steel? Some would say yes. Is it a good steel? Some of you might say yes. I would say it's not great steel by any means, not at all. Is it, you know, is it good? So if you do your research, you'll find out that 2CR13 is kind of in the neighborhood of 420. Now, where on the 420 scale is it going to land? This is where you can debate again and again and again, and I hope I'm not boring people that are not into like the molecular stuff and the steel structure. I would say it's kind of similar to a 420J, but you know, there's not always a direct comparison to like these Chinese type steel formulas and what we would call it sort of an American marketplace. You can do your own research, but like a 420 steel is not a great steel. It's just not. So, you know, the 2CR13 is really good when you put the black oxide coating. It's good to accept the black oxide coating for holding onto that black oxide coating, and that gives it a certain level of corrosion resistance. You know, the areas that have the oxide on it are going to be by nature more corrosion resistant than the areas where they ground it off. It's going to be much easier to resharpen this blade than a harder steel, but it's not going to hold that edge very well. 2CR13 is going to be the kind of thing where you're going to need to put that edge on continuously to keep it up. It is, and you know, no matter what source you look this steel up on, unless it's kind of like a very propaganda-oriented, yay, 2CR13 kind of website, it's a very budget-oriented steel. It is not a performance steel, it is a cheap steel. Now, there are a lot of people that are not going to care about that. There are also a lot of people that just don't flat out understand that. We know if we look at the Knife Box Sucks video, there are a ton of people that are of the mindset if something looks good, it performs well, I guess. So the handle actually is really, really comfortable. So it's got a rubberized coating. It's a full tang blade, which is cool. So this is a big old hunk of steel that's been cast all the way down with a black rubberized handle over it. The taper, I'm not a huge fan of, but it's shaped really well to get a nice grip on. Again, being nitpicky, one thing I'm not a fan of, I really like the curve down here on the bottom. I don't like the squared off shape on the top. I would love it if they repeated this curve just a little bit more up here to make it just slightly more comfortable. I mean, and that's just a big nitpicky thing on my part, but it does feel really, really good. Regardless of hand size, I think that this would be a comfortable hold for just about anyone. When we look at fit and finish, actually, I'm really surprised. You know, this is kind of a not low end, but not really high end brand. So yeah, we've got some issues with the blade casting and everything, but that's what happens when you get a cast knife versus a cut or ground knife. Okay, we'll forgive them. But the overall fit and finish is really well. The way that this handle matches the hilt over there, the way that everything goes together, there's not a lot to mess up, because again, when you cast the blade rather than putting pieces together, you know, there's not a lot of fit problems. But this hilt piece fits really well. There's no issues with the rubber is not a cheap rubber that's peeling up or anything like that. You can just barely see the seam line there of where the rubber came together in the rubber mold. It's really, really well put together. Everything looks high quality on it. You know, it looks like it was put together really well. And you can't feel anything there that would kind of put any extra stress on the hand or any hot spots or anything like that. So the design itself is pretty good. I said in the original unboxing video, when I hold it, I feel like it's the kind of thing I should be like swinging around at Indiana Jones in one of his movies. To me, the overall look is something a little bit Eastern, a little bit of pirate cutlass mixed in with a little bit of, you know, Indian / maybe something that you'd find up in the mountains of like Nepal or Burma or something like that. Let's see how it actually performs. We did the paper test last video, but let's just try it again. New piece of paper, just to kind of show the baseline where we're at. So it's not a dull knife. It's certainly not that razor sharp honed edge that we would want, right? I mean, it's, yeah. Now, we had talked about when I was still inside the steel. It should be easy to put a pretty decent edge on that. So I'm just going to use a very simple one of these folding multi-grip 400, 600 diamond stones, and let's just put a little bit of a refined edge on there and see how that does. With a little bit of a refined edge, not much. I didn't want to do a whole lot to it. Let's see if this clears off this greenery a little bit for us. There we go. Not bad. And you can see, with just a little bit of work, this edge gets a lot more refined. We expected that. We talked about that with the steel. Now, how long does it keep this edge? You know, now it's a really pretty good edge for general slicing, chopping. Just general purpose workhorse of a knife. You've got a lot of weight behind it. You've got a lot of force behind it, a lot of leverage. So it's actually a pretty decent knife in this kind of survival sort of situation. They call it a fighter. I don't know if this is the kind of knife I'd want to take fighting. I'd want something personally, not this. I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could, but I think that it does have some merit if you want to take it kind of orienteering, surviving. It's got the heft and it's got the weight that you can use it to clear some foliage. You can use it to carve. You can use it for a lot of different things. If you needed it as, like, you know, a takedown hunting, you could use it for that. I suppose you can even use it for skinning too, because even though it's not the exact standard skinning shape, you really can get some good control way up there at the tip of the blade and work your way around various parts of an animal if you needed to. So now, in terms of wielding it in a more fine area, more precise area, if we wanted to make a spear out of this, or carve, you know, like we were talking about, the general weight of it makes it a little bit less wieldy. There's not a really good choke up grip that you can do with this if you wanted to, you know, I was talking about using it as a skinner a second ago, and I mean, I suppose you could grip it like so, but in terms of getting a good choke up on the blade to do some fine work with it, you'd have to actually grab the blade there, and who really wants to do that? I mean, it's doable. It's doable to, you know, carve this for a spear or to make part of a trap or, you know, shelter or something like that. It's just, it's the shape itself, and I'm not faulting it because they call it a fighter, not a survival knife, but the shape itself just doesn't lend itself very well for that. Still though, design-wise, I mean, I like the looks of it. Normally, I'm the first guy to say, you know, don't buy a knife based on looks. If you want something that's going to scare someone, you want self-defense, and you want to pull this out, and you want to have your Crocodile Dundee moment with, that's not a knife, now that's a knife, you know, this one will probably work for you. Who wants to square off against this when they're carrying like a little 3-inch folder in their pocket? But functionality, I can tell that this blade, just from what we've been doing, is already starting to dull. 2CR13 is not very sturdy, durable steel. It's just not. I'm sure we could put the edge back on there really, really quickly and really easily, but do you want to have to keep doing that to maintain your blade somewhere out in the field over and over and over again? Here's just a word about durability. Trying not to cut myself. I don't recommend this, but not an inch, not a millimeter of wiggle from this handle, from this hilt. This thing is still solid. Everything's put together. So, you know, we haven't loosened anything here in the construction, which is pretty damn good. I've seen a lot of knives take a lot less abuse than that, and that was not abuse. That was just a little bit of use and start to get loosened up and fall apart. So construction-wise, you know, United Cutlery, they did it right. They put this together pretty damn well. And there you go. There's a closer look at the Sabotage Tanto Fighter by United Cutlery, their M48 brand. I think it's a decent knife. It's not really good. I mean, it's not bad. It's just the kind of thing that, you know, is not your top shelf, high-end kind of product. It's going to require a lot of upkeep, a lot of care, a lot of maintenance to really have a high-performing, high-functioning, combat-ready, if you will, blade with you out in the field. But I know there are a lot of people that are going to be into something like this, the shape, the design, and you got to admit, when you take care of that edge and you put a nice hone on it, it's pretty effective. It's comfortable, it's well built. If you're willing to accept the additional maintenance demands for the money you save over the higher end steels, and you're willing to make that kind of time for cost trade-off, this might be something for you. I looked into it. You can find this, you know, alone, not in a subscription box, on Amazon. I'm sure it's available with a number of different retailers. So, you know, if you want it, you can find it. I'll put a link in the video description because I know sooner or later somebody's going to ask me, like, where is it? This one right here, don't be surprised if you see this in a giveaway in the near future on this channel. I hope that those of you who wanted a closer look at this and had some interest in this, I hope this video helps you out if you're making the decision to buy one for yourself. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I appreciate all of you as always, and I'll be back again real soon.